Does Adobe have a nice little swing set up for me? Some levels of interest, June earnings timing, potentially when the swing setup could form into, some risk areas, and double checking what the algos are saying. So that's the point of this brief video on Adobe. Let's see if we can make some money out of this. Okay, again, not financial advice, but something that I'm actively looking to participate in. On a macro basis, this has got a nice little setup for all-time highs. It's just teetering on kind of like, kind of looking for somewhere to attack that. And then the swing pivot for that is going to be from this pivot high to this pivot low, and this is the kind of like the target, the 1272. So that's a bit more long term. That's not the immediate swing we're interested in, but that's something that gives me relative confidence that if you get into a position, even if it goes against you, at some point it might sort of rescue you, this kind of like big pivot. Okay, so in other words, we're not in a big downtrend and we're not going to be holding all the way down to zero. Don't think that's going to happen. You never know. Okay, what we're interested in is the pivot, fib pullback zones are going to be from here to here, pivot low, pivot high, potentially pivot high, and a retracement. And price is at the 38% level, which is great news. For anybody that does Elliott Wave, we could be, don't you see Elliott Wave? Let's have a look here. We could see something like a 1, a 2, 3. This could be the 4, and then 5 could be something like that. Something like that possible, this could extend out a little bit further. That would kind of make that a little bit longer than 3, but that doesn't matter too much. That's got a potential. Anyway, veering off topic a little bit. So here, looking at this as an interesting position here to enter into a swing that could end up being bigger than the initial target. So could take us back to here. So the 127 for this little swing gets us back up to here, and then the 168 clears it, creates an all-time high, which would lend itself to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 actually, which is interesting. Hadn't looked at that before. What I'm interested in though, in the immediate going out to June earnings, so I think Adobe's something like the 20th of June, something like that. Let's just say it's the 20th of June. What a weekly, may not get those exact dates. Looking for a potential mini move to close this gap. That's what I'm particularly eyeing up. And this is the underside of this is the actual play that I'm looking at. So something like that would give us something like an 8%. Now, the reason for not looking any further than that is because this could act as a resistance, pull back, and then maybe try again. So this is just a short-term, it's a swing, but it's a short-term swing. And part of the reason for taking it is because we're going to be trading into earnings, and there might be some expectation of good earnings. Some of the risk with earnings is that the market makers and a few kind of bigger whales like to kind of like scare people out, buy up shares cheap, and then push them up. So that's something to consider, which is why this kind of area here, 38, is actually a risk area, even if we are looking for this. So we might see something like push up to 550, a big pullback, scary pullback, and then rebuild into earnings. So there's all sorts of scenarios that could happen when you've got much bigger players with bigger pockets that can move the markets around. You always have to be careful of how you position yourself. Looking at this, if we look left, we've got some support areas here. So resistance, support, support, support. Tested a few times. We've come back to it. It's been defended, which is really good. But got to be mindful that we could open the door to a bit lower. Going to leave the fibs there, and let's check on our algos. Let's do the range algo, which is really good. So range algo has told us that we've just tested the mid-range. Okay, this is really good actually. So I'm a bit more bullish than I was going into this. So the 50% is like a go, no go zone for me. So we're on a weekly level. So this is a high level. So the algo has drawn some levels of interest, and anything that is a mid-range is a pivot either for a support to push higher, or that's a decision of whether or not the stock is going to just go much lower. So hitting the mid-range and bouncing off, you might see it hit again, that's potential, but anywhere around here with some risk management, maybe setting, let's see, setting 487 as a potential sort of stop loss or a get out area, and maybe watch price come back to 457 or 420. Don't think that's going to happen. But it's something, it's kind of like a risk area that we need to be aware of. So really looking to enter into a swing, yeah, relatively soon really, and initially targeting the 550, which would be a nice 8 to 10%. I mean, it could even go up to this level here, which is also an algo derived range. So anywhere between 550 and maybe up to 560 something is an area of take profit, but I'm going to be cautious and just look at this 550 area. Other algos, what are the signals from the other algos? On a daily basis, we've got a level of support here. This is not looking too good from a volume momentum. That's down. That's not positive. Let's see if on a lower time frame it's been building up. There's a little bit of build up here. So we're in the mid-range of the volume momentum. So got to watch this really. So although this does look like an interesting bullish setup swinging out into June, so plenty of time, the volume momentum on a daily is not currently very supportive of that. So on a lower time frames, let's go to 4 hour, trying to build. We've got some support here. We've got some buying interest. These are algo pings suggesting lots of buying interest, which is backed up by the momentum. So not without risk, but we've got some areas to define our risk. So goes below 487, might go a bit lower down to 456. Keeps holding around here, looking for a push up to 550 area, 560, something like that, maybe on the side of here. That will close the gap. So gap close is an option. Am I going to stay in it to the gap close? Depends on the volume momentum signatures on the kind of like a lower time frame as we get out there. Okay, video's long enough. It's something to put on the watch list, put on the radar. Could be a good setup for me. Chart looks absolutely great. You don't spend all this time going sideways and then just a couple of months doing all this sort of stuff just to hang around here and pull back. This is setting up for something bigger for the next year or two. All right, catch you on the next one.